So years ago, when I first got into the boutique label thing, horror collecting movies, or just really movie collecting in general, there was really one game in town, and all I knew about was Scream Factory. It would be a little while before I would learn about Arrow Video and what they had to offer, and their really strong foothold overseas. And then probably around 2014, maybe even 15, one of those years, I would go to FYA, and all of a sudden, they started getting shipments of these movies from what was called Arrow Video. I would soon become a massive fan of Arrow because of their prestige release styling and just classy work. They're a company that you don't see Arrow Video screw much up of anything. Arrow Video is a company that you could tell they take pride in every release that they do and go the extra mile with everything. What I have right here to my immediate left is my top 5 Arrow Video releases ever. This is not necessarily a I want you to own. These are the ones that I love. Some of them are kind of hard to find. Some of them may not be. It just depends. But these are my top 5 releases ever. And I'm basing this based on a number of things. How much I enjoy the film, how much they respect the film with the classy release, special features and presentation. So those kinds of things. So this is a company that I love. I love their styling, and let's go ahead and just have a look. So coming in at number 5 on this list comes back to I think 2016. This is the Creepshow 2 special edition release. Now this was the very first initial release that they ever did for this movie, and it comes in this really nice box. It's got a really beautiful red kind of gloss to it. I think that the UK version had blue on it. And of course, you get the movie and the regular Arrow case, which I love the Arrow cases. And you can also always put the reverse art on there, which is something Arrow is very good at. Now, what I loved about this was they gave it a 2K scan, so they did a really good 2K scans for me. A lot of times, like, I could be perfectly happy with 2K scans. I know that it's not as good as 4K, but I always I'm usually really happy with the way 2K scans look on some of these Blu-ray releases. And for the most part, when I see them like that, I'm like, you know what, that I think that's good enough. But they give you this beautiful little booklet, and they stylize it like a comic book. There's a picture of George and Steven on the back, which is just lovely to see. And it's a comic, and it's so beautiful and lovely. They did such a great job. Gave this film a lot of love and respect, and I really appreciate that because Creepshow 2 is fantastic. I know people that like Creepshow 2 as much, if not more, than Creepshow 1, and it's hard to argue it because what Creepshow 2 does so well is charm you. Episodes like Old Chief Woodenhead is such a nice little tale. You really care to see these bad guys stopped because they kill the old man and his wife, which you love, and Old Chief Woodenhead gets revenge for him. The Raft is just a fan favorite. It's so simplistic in its approach, but it works. So they did a great job. The special features are fantastic on here. You get to hear from almost everybody that worked on it. I mean, so great release. You can still buy this movie individually if you'd like. I don't know if you can get the chunky set readily available. Probably not, but you can get the movie, I'm sure. So Creepshow 2, one of my favorites. Coming up next is the very first collector's edition I think I ever owned from Arrow. I bought this at FYE, and it's become a very sought-after release. Not surprisingly so. It's one of my absolute favorite horror movies from Brian Usna. That movie is Bride of Reanimator. Now, this release is just gorgeous. I loved the artwork for this release. This was before they did the hardbox style, so this is kind of like a softer. It's not just completely breakable, but it's a little bit soft, that softer kind of cardboard cover. But what a gorgeous release! Look at the doctor with the bat wings, just absolutely stunning. Now in the release, you get all this beautiful artwork and cards and R-rated cut, unrated cut, special features. You get your booklet and cards. I mean, all these lobby cards and booklets and stuff. They do such a great job in there. It's marvelous what they do. And then they always make these beautiful books that you can get. And, again, more comics. It's just like, what a nice touch that they do right there. That's just so lovely. I just appreciate that so much. just fantastic. So this release right here, I'll never forget getting it. I was just sitting there for hours reading the comic book and just appreciating owning this release because it's just so gorgeous. I love it. It's one of my favorite releases I have. I've never been able to sell it or get rid of it. I've had many offers for it. I can't do it. Coming up next is a release for a movie that is so deserving of it. It's really a wonder that Scream Factory never got their hands on it, but I'm not upset because Arrow does such a great job at releasing these style of movies so well. And American Werewolf in London was a release that they just absolutely nailed. First of all, the artwork on this is probably one of the best, newly commissioned artworks I've ever seen. It's kind of got this busy look, but it's absolutely symmetrical and beautiful and so nice to look at. You've got the two boys in the middle. You've got the wolf in the middle right there, and you've got the evolution of his transformation down here, done by Rick Baker, which is done so well. Now this was it says new 2019 restoration, but I know that when I watched this, and I've seen this movie from this release maybe 4 or 5 times. It looks like what you would call a 4K restoration. It looks beautiful, although I wouldn't mind upgrading a 4K version of this one day. But part of me is just like, you don't need to. You've got the most amazing release of it. It looks amazing already, so I haven't. But part of me is always like, maybe you'll release it. Maybe you'll release it one day. But again, in here, you get those beautiful cards from the lobby cards from the movies, which I always think is a nice touch because they're so cool. And again, they give you this beautiful book, which has the artwork from those horror Halloween DVDs you can get at Walmart at the time. So I really like that. All about the making of, beautiful stuff, lovely stuff in there. I just love it so much. Great release, absolutely stellar release for American Werewolf in London. And it's funny because I always tell people, what do you like better, American Werewolf in London or The Howling? And I've always been a Howling person. But I always say, what I really typically say whenever this gets brought up is the right answer is either one, because both of these movies are stellar, fantastic, monstrous, great movies. I mean, I love this movie so much it's not even funny. This one, between the two, I will say this one has more to offer for the viewer. There's a little bit of humor, there's a little bit of action, I don't know about if there's more suspense in the Howling is pretty suspenseful, but there's more to offer in this movie, and I'm totally willing to admit that. I think the average person would pick American Werewolf over The Howling. All right, now we're down to the last two. Really quick, I got a lot of compliments on this shirt, so I may as well show you guys. This is from Fright Rags, Return of the Living Dead, with Tarman busting out of his trioxin barrel. So just wanted to show that. Number 2, going back to Lovecraft again, this release was breathtaking. When I saw it at FYE, I was very fortunate to be able to find these at the stores before they would sell out in half a minute online. And this release is jaw-dropping. They gave you for the first time, I think it's called the Integral Cut, which is the longest version of the film that was never released before in America, both 4K scans. And wow. So, got your box right there. This really cool, kind of stylized art. I always liked the approach that they did with these. Again, I don't know if it's the same artist that worked on Bride, but I think Bride actually came up before Reanimator on their label. So you have the Integral Cut and you have the unrated version. And the Integral Cut is the one that was released for the first time in America. It's the longest version of the film. Again, you get those beautiful cards, lobby cards, and they just do a fantastic job with that. I love those. And then you get a mini booklet going over some of the details of the film. And then, of course, you get the big booklet, which I just love these. I'm such a fan of these. I love to read these, and, the comic book stuff is always so cool. They do a great job with that. I love it so much. So, I mean, this is when you kind of got to give it to Arrow over Scream Factory. I think Arrow, when they do a prestige release for a movie that you love, you know that they're going to go all the way with it. And even though these kind of releases are limited, down the road, if you want to own this movie, you'll still be able to own this movie. And my number one release, the number one release for me from Arrow Video, without question, this is one of my favorite movies. This is one of my favorite releases. It's a prestige release. It actually, a lot of these movies, guys, I have really nice Laserdisc editions of it, and sometimes the Blu-rays even, they don't have that cinematic quality that I like that Laserdisc has. This movie has that cinematic quality that beats my Criterion Laserdisc release of it, which is a big thing, and I've always wanted to not want it to be beaten because I love my Criterion Laserdisc release of this movie. But when this movie came out in a 4K scan Blu-ray special edition, I was like, I was almost in tears because it was so beautiful how the picture and audio was. I was like, this actually beats the Criterion Laserdisc. My number one release from Arrow Video, without question, is the Robocop release. Now, this release is just jaw-droppingly beautiful. The transfer, the work, the things they did, Omni Consumer Products in the back, is just amazing. This is one of my all-time favorite movies. I always watch it during this time of year. It's so packed in here I can't open it up. So in here you get a beautiful poster. And, of course, it's got the original theatrical artwork on one side. And it's got a original poster on one side and then the newly commissioned on the other. They always do a great job on their artwork. Killer job on this one. You get, of course, your beautiful booklet. All about this. Making ofs. Beautiful stuff. Beautiful, beautiful stuff. I love seeing him turning into that toxic zombie thing. Help me. I love it. So beautiful booklet, beautiful, beautiful booklet. They did such a good job. And then, of course, the movie itself. And inside, again, all those beautiful lobby cards again. And they give you the director's cut of RoboCop, which is the goriest. The guy gets shot in the building by Ed 209 even longer. And the theatrical cut. I love that they give you both choices there. 9 out of 10 times I always do that. I typically do the theatrical cut for stuff because sometimes those director's cuts are just long versions of the film. So, but this one was perfect director's cut. So, RoboCop 4K scan, amazing, great special features, multitude of special features. It's just, without question, this is one of the most amazing releases ever from Arrow. They killed it. They did a home run with RoboCop, and I was so glad because I was nervous about this release when I heard it was happening. I was like, please do a great job on the picture quality. And that's really shame on me. I should have known so much better that not only would Arrow do a good job, but they were going to beat that beautiful Criterion Laserdisc I have, and they did. So if you don't own RoboCop from Arrow, totally get this. You could try to search out the chunky edition on eBay if you want, but you can also just get it as a release. And there's a steelbook with the original poster art for the cover. So number one release, without question, is RoboCop. They killed it, did a great job. So what are some of your favorite Arrow Video releases? I just went over my top 5 favorites. I've got more. Some of them I had to really decide which ones would make the cut and which ones wouldn't. But I'm pretty confident with that list right there. I love those releases right there. And I excluded the Hellraiser box set because that's just like on a whole nother level. And I talked about that in the top 5 greatest box sets ever video I did, or the greatest physical media releases ever. So thank you guys for watching this video. Christian and Horror. Share your thoughts down below on Arrow Video and your favorite releases, and hopefully we'll do another video soon just like this talking about more Arrow titles. Thank you for watching. You can call me CHH. Have a great day. Bye.